almost forgot, when you're looking at the story of Oryx and his sisters when they're going down into the deep, you almost think about it like in birth, like when they're going down to the deep and they're forming, they're almost like they're in the incubation period of the egg and combined with the sperm, and that's why Oryx can become a man, because he wasn't developed. This is for my Destiny lovers. Specifically, the Taken King. Okay, for those who have we who played Destiny at its peak, this was during the Taken King campaign in 2000. I don't even know. It's been some time. I don't even know what Destiny is on right now. I haven't played Destiny in about 5 years, if I'm being serious. So the Taken King campaign of Destiny, was it Destiny 1? Yes, it was. We were still in Destiny 1 at this time. It was a campaign that led to the third raid of Destiny 1, and it was against Oryx. Oryx was the Taken King. He was the leader of the Hive, which was the father of Crota. Crota being the Hive prince on the moon that we had to defeat. And yes, he came from a faraway planet called Fundament. In the story, in the campaign, we're actually going through present time, not present time as today, but present time as in the time of the story that's in the story, or the story that we were given through cutscenes and talking and had information within the game was only information about what was happening at that time. So what were the Hive planning? How do we get to the Taken and get to the what's his King Throne realm, or his whatever that other realm we had to do, the beyond the 3D realm into the 4D, 5D, I suppose, was the realm that he truly lived in. But if you picked up the pieces of the Book of Sorrows, the pages that you were able to pick up through loot and completing objectives and others means, it gave you a piece together a story of the Hive, and more specifically of Oryx as a child and his two sisters. And in this story, we learned a lot. In this story, it kind of pieces together how the Hive were imagined. And I think I'll just get into it. The Oryx was born a girl, as Orash, or Orish, or Rosh, something like that. A softer name. It was him and his two sisters, and they were the daughters of the king of the planet Fundament that they were from. On this planet of Fundament, they lived in constant war. It was chaos. When you think about the Hive and you think about how they're formed, they're supposed to be from the darkness. In the game's perspective, we're in the light because we're under the protection of the what's that? We're under protection of the Traveler, and the Traveler lends us its light, and that's how we're able to like use these special abilities and have these ghosts that resurrect us from the dead, and so on. The Hive, however, they're fighting against the light, and later on we learn that there's something larger behind them. But at this point, all we know is that they're against the light, and they're trying to not only the light, but anything else that's living, because they have to be on top. We learn that they're following the sword logic, but I'm getting ahead of myself. At this point, they are living in chaos. And in living in chaos, if you do some reading, you might read about the term of things being primal. And sometimes when we think of something being primal, we think about things being like ape-like or animalistic. But primal, you can think of it just as simply being the beginning, or things being simple, or breaking down into their smallest stage. And so before I get to the story, I'll get into how the race on Fundament that Oryx is from, at this point, Oryx looks. They're small beings with heads, but they have 3 eyes. And this is almost symbolic to what they represent. The number 3, I think I can show you better than I can tell you. If you take one line, you have a line. Take 2 lines, you have a space. If you want to make an object, you have to close that so they can be enclosed into a shape. I guess we can say most primal, or the smallest, or the least amount of lines taken to make a shape would be 3, and you would make a triangle. 3 sides, 3 points. In 3D, and to give an example of what I mean, I'm not talking about primal as in the cave or apes, but in things like 3D art, when you're working with small shapes to build bigger objects in these things, the most primal form, or the smallest that they go sometimes, especially when they're very efficient programs, they'll use a simple triangle. And it'll be a lot of triangles, but the triangles build and they have the shapes. You make a sphere, but the smallest pixel will be a triangle. Sometimes you have octagons. Sometimes people use hexagons. But again, we're looking at the Taken, the hive, being a primal race, being a race formed in darkness, and so them having 3 eyes is a representation of what they're representing. Representation of what they're representing. So now we have Oryx, or Rosh at this point, with his being a daughter of the king of Fundament, or the king of his race on Fundament, and they are having 3 eyes, 3 sisters, and that can remind you of things. It can remind you of maybe the Trinity, if we want to think of it in that aspect, because we can bounce around to different, anywhere you want to go with this idea of the Trinity. So let's go there. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Now, let's keep that in mind. Now let's go to what happens. So they're at war. The father, they say he's crazy. They call him the madman. He's 10 years old, and that was old age for them, being on this primal planet where they're always in chaos. So old age being a luxury. Also, we don't know how long 10 years is, because maybe they're in a different solar system. So maybe 10 years could be 30 years from Earth years. But nonetheless, he's 10 years old. He's in old age. He's going crazy. He has a worm. He has a worm, a dead worm that whispers to him visions. Probably why they think he's crazy. So it's him, his 3 kids, but then there's a woman who is, they don't refer to her as the mother of them, but they refer to her as his womanly help. So maybe it's his wife after the mother of them, or of some sort. We're not given that information. But now we have a different Trinity. We have the father, the kids, and this woman help. Now, in this area that they're at war, with the king being crazy and the next in line being children still, the woman of this race, she is like, I don't have hope. So she's like, I'm going to help the enemy conquer us, and then at least I can be a representation of my race for the conquerors. Am I speaking low? I feel like I'm speaking low. So, at that point, we're already in a primal race on a chaotic world that's always in conflict, and now we have a betrayal from the woman. Now, in certain mythologies and certain theologies, they considered women to be the chaotic beings. They think of women to be chaotic beings because, that's it. In some theologies, when speaking of woman versus man, they picture the man to be the structure. And then they can picture of the woman being the chaotic being. Anything can happen. And so this is like a triple entendre on the chaos that birthed Oryx, because they have the chaos of the planet, the chaos of the father being crazy, the primal nature of their kingdom, and then the also extra chaos that was ensued by the betrayal of the mother teacher. This is almost a resemblance to Eve in the garden as she follows the whispers of the snake. So, moving on, we move to the betrayals happen. Oryx at this time, watches her father murdered, Her other sister picks up the worm. The three sisters together vanish, and they go into the deep. They take a ship and they go into the deep. They go into ocean and they go into deep. Ocean, if we're still thinking about how it can represent metaphorically, ocean is the emotions following traumatic situation, the deep into the ocean, going back to the metaphor, losing the light as they go further deep. So they're falling from the light, falling from not just the light, but falling from their. So they're falling from the light. They're not just falling from the light from where they're going deep. This is represented. They're falling from their innocence, their adolescence. They've experienced the pain of losing everything now. So now they're going deep. And as they go deep, they come together. I guess as you say, it makes them stronger. Now the Trinity is being pressured into one. The pressure of the ocean, the idea of the one of the many, one of the many into all, or what do most stuff say? One to the many and the many to the all, because not what you got to God. Oh, I forgot. Anyways, take it back. Let's take it back to the idea of Christianity. The God be representing it in the three, but the three is all one. There's one is the three. Three is just three different aspects of the one. So now they're making a pact together under this pressure, down deep. Now this pact can also be thought of as witchcraft, because they're leaving the light. They're running from the surface. They're going deep, and instead of looking up to the light, they're looking to each other. They're almost like they're looking for a separate power source, because okay, so the sisters, they go. So the three sisters, they're going deep, and they're deep into isolation. They're alone, the three of them. So it's almost like they're meditating in their isolation post-trauma, and they're just going deeper. And this deep isolation meditation, they come across Leviathan. And Leviathan, if you're unaware, is supposed to represent like the. All right, so they going deep into this meditation and this isolation, and after a while, they finally run into Leviathan. If you're familiar with Leviathan, or if you're familiar with the movie Hellraiser, Leviathan, he's like the monster of the deep, just messed with like the desires and the underbelly of not just the world, of like the universe, of like, if you know, you know. So they run into Leviathan, and he's like warning them. He's like, hey, I've been here for a while. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen you. I've been watching you and your people for eons. And, I'm gonna let you know the best thing would be go back to the top, go back to the surface. It's gonna be a hard life, but you should go back and rejoin that. And it's almost like a final barrier. Like if they're going down into the depths, to the core of fundament. And I forgot to mention that fundament, the name of their planet, is fun. It's like the beginning of fundamental. Back to that primal, back to that prime numbers. But anyways, it's like he's like the last barrier before they go down into hell. And that's what Leviathan a lot of time represents. But he's almost like a messenger, saying, in this case, he's almost taking the role of a messenger, of the role of like not just of chaos and hell, but just the voice of the universe, letting them know where it is, and that trying to give them advice to go back up. And you can think of that, but you can also think of it as like the final test to make sure they're serious about going deep, about going all the way. And each sister at this point takes their turn rejecting his offer. And again, we're back to the three. And you can think of this, if you take into the Bible, Judas rejecting Jesus 3 times. So we have another third, we have another of that. So each sister takes their turn, and they reject his offer. They all want to go deep. They're listening to the whispers of the dead worm, the whispers of their dead father, and they've said they want revenge. They want the power. They don't want to be feeble. They don't want to go back to the surface just to suffer in misery. So each of them deny the offer, and they keep going down. When they finally go all the way down, they step into the fire. They step out of the ship into the fire. And they're not burnt. And when they're not burnt, they come across these dragons, the worm dragons, the Ankara. I think that's how you pronounce it. And that's when they meet them, the Ankara, they're just like, all right, so you're here. we've been here for a long time. We've been waiting for somebody to free us. We know what you want. We can give you exactly what you want. You just have to swallow us and let us live within you, and we will basically give you a hunger that will give you the power that you need. But you have to feed and you have to continue forever. And this is almost like they're, if you think about it, it's almost like they're agreeing to be. It's almost like they're agreeing to be possessed by these Ankara, by these worm dragons. And so they take the offer, but as they take the offer, they're now becoming new beings. They're not the same girls as they were. They're given new names. And then Oryx, as she is known at this time, she actually becomes a man, and now she's Oryx. Oryx the king. And then they get their power, and then so on and so on. So I mean, that's all I'm gonna go for. I guess that's all we'll talk about so far. I think that was a lot, and my videos aren't that long. So yeah, that was a very interesting. The creation of the hive. But that's when they become the hive. I forgot what their people are called before them, but they become the hive after they eat the worms, the worm dragons. So now they're at the feast, and all the people that they bring with them, they also have to feast on these worms, and they have to continue feasting. That's why they have to spread out, and they adopt the sword logic of fighting and conquering any life form that they come across, and they can only be stopped if they're stopped. Because if they're not stopped, that means that they're strongest. If they're strongest, that means they have to conquer. Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I'll talk about this again. There's more to the Taken and the other sisters, and I mean the hive and the other sisters, and I'll talk about that too. But yeah, this was just about Oryx mainly, and how Oryx became Oryx. Yeah, I played Destiny for a while, so I can go all day, really. Yeah, peace.
And with the sisters, as they're making this choice, so they're looking at, they're confronted with Leviathan about this offer. He also has to think about it, like, as they've already been in isolation in the deep, they already decided to go down. And the thing about going down is you can't fall because you're already under everything. And so going back up, if you think about what the picture in the minds of these sisters at the time, going up will just be another way for them to fall again, but fall to their death, not fall into the deep.